Picture this. You're strapped into a Formula One car, heart pounding, the world blurring at 300 km/h, and suddenly the car feels like it's speaking a dialect you've never heard. Every turn, every brake zone, every acceleration, nothing matches the rhythm you know. That's not a nightmare, that's what Lewis Hamilton lived through in Hungary. And what happened next didn't just rattle his confidence, it sent shockwaves through Ferrari's corridors in Maranello, because what unfolded on that twisty ribbon of tarmac wasn't just a bad day at the office, it was a turning point. Hungary has always been more than another Grand Prix for Hamilton. It's his personal fortress, a place where victories have been chiseled into his legend. But this time, the Hungaroring didn't roll out the red carpet. Instead of crafting another chapter in his dominance, he found himself wrestling a car that refused to obey. From the very first moments of qualifying, the tension was audible. His voice over the radio carried an edge, brief questions, constant tweaks, yet no solutions in sight. The frustration grew as Charles Leclerc, in the identical Scarlet machine, danced over the same corners as if the track had been built for him alone. Inside the garage, engineers huddled over telemetry screens, frowning at the data. Same car, same conditions, yet worlds apart in performance. The gap wasn't just about lap times, it was about control, trust, and whether Hamilton's input still truly influenced the direction of the team. When Q2 ended, the numbers hit like a gut punch. Out by 15 thousandths of a second, barely the blink of an eye in racing terms, but heavy with meaning. Leclerc grabbed pole, Hamilton endured his worst Hungarian qualifying in over a decade. The paddock braced for disappointment, but they weren't ready for what came next. Breaking an unspoken Ferrari tradition, Hamilton faced the cameras and fired off a line no driver in red usually dares to say. Maybe Ferrari needs another driver. Today, I was absolutely useless. No sugarcoating, no polite deflection, just a raw, blunt verdict that detonated through Maranello like a thunderclap. The reaction inside headquarters was instant. Before Leclerc's champagne could even lose its fizz, emergency meetings were underway. The mood shifted from celebration to damage control. This wasn't a champion blaming bad luck. This was a warning flare, a signal that the harmony between driver and machine had fractured. And in F1, where belief in the car is everything, Ferrari had just watched one of their most valuable assets bleed confidence in public. Behind closed doors, the technical team dove into a forensic teardown of the weekend. What they found in the data wasn't just odd, it was unsettling. Lap overlays showed Hamilton's and Leclerc's cars behaving like entirely different beasts. In Hamilton's hands, steering inputs would bite sharply into one corner, then feel lazy in the next. Brake balance shifted unpredictably. Traction control, meant to tame the rear, sometimes did the opposite, feeding instability back into the chassis. And as the track heated up, the disconnect worsened. Engineers traced the anomalies through the suspension and brake-by-wire systems, but nothing lined up with the usual suspects: tyre wear, aero balance, or ride height changes. For Leclerc, the same SF-25 delivered precision and predictability. For Hamilton, it was like playing a piano that drifted out of tune halfway through a performance. The problem wasn't whether something was wrong, it was why it only sabotaged one side of the garage. The deeper they dug, the more the evidence pointed to a single culprit: the rear suspension update introduced since Belgium. Inside Ferrari, it was hailed as a breakthrough: more traction on exit, tighter ride height control, sharper stability under braking. For Leclerc, it was a perfect fit, giving him the confidence to attack corners with scalpel-like aggression. But Hamilton's style, smoother inputs, progressive steering, and a tyre-conserving approach clashed violently with the update's reactive nature. Instead of planting the car, it delivered mid-corner weight shifts, rear-end flicks, and hesitation in response. It wasn't a question of skill or hunger, it was a mechanical personality mismatch. And whether by coincidence or quiet design, the car had been evolving toward Leclerc's strengths. For Lewis Hamilton, the battle in Hungary wasn't just against rivals on the track, it was against the very essence of the machine under him. Deep inside Maranello, a truth quietly surfaced, one that nobody wanted to put on record. Charles Leclerc had been shaping Ferrari's technical DNA for years. His fingerprints were in every aerodynamic contour, every mechanical revision since the SF-25. The SF-25's traits, razor-sharp turn-in, eager rotation and a demand for constant corrections were a mirror of his driving style. For Leclerc, the new suspension was a surgeon's scalpel. For Hamilton, it was a snare. Each lap felt like running on shifting sand, never knowing if the rear would grip or suddenly give way. Some engineers away from the microphones admitted what no press statement ever would. The car's development had naturally grown around one man. Not sabotage, just the gradual effect of years of feedback, simulator runs and trust in a familiar style. But the result was clear, a car that came alive for Leclerc but fought Hamilton at every corner. For a driver who thrives on a deep, predictable bond with his machinery, this wasn't just a disadvantage, it was a sentence. And by the end of the Hungarian weekend, that sentence felt like it could become permanent unless something fundamental changed. The problem now went far beyond lap times and data traces. This was about identity, about which driver Ferrari truly intended to build their future around. On the spreadsheets, the calibration figures were cold and precise. In the paddock, the story was written in posture and glances. Leclerc looked like the embodiment of the car's design philosophy, a man and machine in seamless harmony. Hamilton, meanwhile, was in a quiet war, trying to translate an alien language on the fly. Inside the team, fears brewed, quiet, unspoken, but real, that the gap between them wasn't purely technical. Development priorities, simulation programs, even the unconscious decisions of engineers could drift toward the driver they'd worked with for years. For a newcomer, even one carrying 7 world titles, that bias, intentional or not, could erode influence faster than a bad season. If Ferrari's hierarchy was already tilting toward Leclerc, then the SF-25 was more than just a race car. It was a declaration of loyalty forged in carbon fibre. Hungary was meant to be a step toward Ferrari's resurgence. Instead, it exposed 2 very different realities inside the same garage. For Hamilton, the weekend tore away any lingering illusions. This wasn't about a bad setup call or a mistimed strategy, it was structural. A product of years of evolution in one direction. And hanging in the air, unspoken but unavoidable, was the question, who is this car truly built for? Every design decision in Formula One, from aero updates to brake mapping, benefits someone. In this case, the beneficiary's style matched the SF-25's heartbeat perfectly, and it wasn't Hamilton. The team now stood at a crossroads. They could keep refining a chassis tailored like a custom suit for one driver, or reshape it to suit 2 completely different approaches. Either choice would ripple through Ferrari's performance, politics, and long-term direction. The Hungarian Grand Prix won't just be remembered for Leclerc's pole position. It will be marked as the weekend Hamilton's words pierced through the PR gloss and exposed a structural imbalance that could derail Ferrari's most ambitious project in years. The SF-25 had already proven it could win, in the right hands. But Formula One doesn't hand out trophies to half a team. If a car only thrives under one style, the second seat becomes dead weight, no matter how decorated the driver is. And when that driver is a 7-time world champion, the loss isn't just measured in points, it's measured in reputation. The races ahead will reveal an answer no one dares voice publicly. Will Ferrari bend the car toward Hamilton, or will they double down on the Leclerc blueprint? The quiet civil war inside the red garage is no longer hypothetical. It's etched into telemetry, gestures, and the spaces between words. If you believe Hamilton's fight should be Ferrari's fight, make your stance clear. WSATs, stand with Lewis. The world is watching.